I feel like, particularly with the three of you and explaining, your perspectives, and I'm kind of glancing over at our feed as it's coming by, and there's a lot of women that are watching as well that are, of course, saying thank you for your points of view. But I think, in the three of you would know better than I would, but almost get the sense of it in training women myself. Sometimes there's a feeling that the women have to keep up with the guys. And I'm sure there are other, either other sports or there are other maybe martial programs where because they don't share the same principles that To-Shin Do shares, it would appear and feel as though the physicality has to be, you got to be at a certain level of physicality in order to do a martial art, as it were. And what I enjoy mostly about being someone who shares this martial art is that, I'll watch women that are training, and some women are trying, especially when they're in their lower color belt phases, while they're just coming through, they mistake what they're looking for. And we all do it, men or women, but we're talking about women here. So the women feel as though they've got to step it up more. And then that moment happens when you're like, once they're shown specifically what to not to do, but how to place themselves, then you come to realize that it's like, you know what, I don't have to be strong. I'm putting in the strength because that's what I feel like I'm seeing. But then you get to a spot where it's like, no, this is actually effortless movement. It's where I'm putting myself in space and time, not how I'm putting myself there with my physicality, that you end up benefiting the most. And each one of you in your own way has said this as far as what you would tell your white belt self is, calm down. There have been a couple of people that chimed in that had said, maybe I would take it a little slower. Don't be so hard on yourself. And these are like false expectations that we come into the martial art with, thinking that we need to be a certain way when we really don't. And would you agree with the fact that this is not a martial art where you need to be, naturally being physically fit helps, but you don't have to be physically fit in order to do this martial art? As a matter of fact, it can be a deterrent at times when you try to make things more than what they are.
Yeah,
you let anyone feel that.
I'll say I'm not burdened with the option of muscling it, right? Like that's not really an option for me to just muscle it. So, I mean, I think sometimes women there can be a strategic advantage of being smaller, but also, you have to find the angle, you have to find the balance, you have to do it with the ninja skills, which to me ends up being a lot more like being a sleight of hand magician than being like a football linebacker or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Nicki or Anna? Dr. Anna?
Yeah, I mean, I would say absolutely. Like you do not have to be athletic, or you do not have to be, a physical powerhouse to be able to do and be successful in To-Shin Do. Like you said, Scott, it helps. And for me, it helps maintaining my fitness complementary to my training, right? Knowing that I if my technique is working, I don't have to like actually pick somebody up with my arms and throw them. But that's part, when we talk about our student creed, like I protect life and health, like my physical fitness is me protecting my life and health, knowing that, lots of Americans struggle with cardiovascular disease and diabetes and things like that. Like I feel, and this is just my opinion, I'm probably more of a danger to myself than anybody else is. So for me, taking care of myself is a part of abiding by the student creed, and just kind of helps me be able to maintain training easier, and without injury. Because I don't know if there's really anybody who's trained and not had any kind of tweaky injury, because it's a physical activity, things will happen, but I think
Right.
being fit helps.
Well, it's an interesting point that you make when you say, because Hardy and I talk about this a lot, and that's the beauty of this particular art as it is handed down to us by Anshu Stephen Hayes and all of the other Shihan Kai members, and our own self-exploration as senior students, is that you really are your worst detriment to yourself. The way that you view what it is that you're doing, the way that you respond to things, because and Anshu said this multiple times, we do not really live in a society where the very first thing we think of when we get up in the morning is, how am I going to save my life today? We don't live in a war zone, or this is not something that comes across our plate first thing in the morning. But everyday life stresses, right? And we all have our own, and even, different genders have their own stresses, that this martial art, if you really stick with it and you really pay attention to the principles that are going on, you're not just learning how to protect yourself physically, you're really learning self-defense, self-protection, on how to go about living your life, to the fullest that you possibly can, taking those things that we know are going to happen to us on a daily basis. And we're probably going to generate those things on our own, as you were pointing out, Nicki, and be able to self-reflect and learn the lessons of To-Shin and those principles, and be able to have the wherewithal to apply them in our daily lives. So, kudos to you for recognizing that, and knowing that even though these are strengths that I need to be able to get better at, they're not things that are necessary to be an accomplishment within this martial art. So it's a very healthy perspective, I think. So Dr. Anna, what's your perspective on that?
I love how Nicki phrased it, how you view your fitness as complementary to To-Shin. Like, as you said, it's not something that's, you don't have to be fast or strong in order to do this. And that's one of the things that I love so much about this martial art. And like one of you said, how you were asking if in the beginning, if we felt like we really needed to step it up when we would pair up with a guy. And for me, absolutely. Like, I'm 5'3", and at first when I was starting with a guy, I'm like, I need to bring it. I need to be like as fast and as strong as I possibly can. And quickly found out that would do me absolutely no good. But it's a beautiful discovery, because then you learn about balance breaking and angling and looking for center lines and attacking those, and body positioning, and all of these other things that just don't rely on strength or speed. And I think that's something that, it's powerful and so useful to women, especially, just because, some of us tend to be smaller, but I think it's definitely something that's good about this art, just being able to rely on things that are not speed or strength, for sure.
So lightning round, we've already covered some of this, but I want to make sure we get a chance to do it we're coming up on an hour, believe it or not. I knew this would fly by, but what are some things, and I'm a little nervous to ask this as someone that runs a dojo, but what are some things dojo owners and dojo communities need to consider to make the dojo more inviting to women to come in, and that the support is there to continue to bring them up to the ranks of black belt and beyond? And I'm saying that I'm involved in multiple martial arts communities, and I'm really proud of To-Shin. There's a lot of high-ranking women and a lot of women practitioners, but I believe, everybody's, I believe we could do better. We could be more inclusive, and I would love to hear your perspectives. And anybody that's got some thoughts, because we've got a few minutes.
Women instructors.
Women instructors, like Nicki.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, so representation matters, right? So if you want to diversify our community, we have to have diverse representation in our leadership at the dojo level and higher as well. So I think that's a big thing. And if you want to bring in more women, we need to be able to see ourselves represented.
Yep. Women in leadership roles, whether that's coach trainer, instructors, guest teachers, guest seminar speakers, and I'd say also trying to just include, I know this is a fine line, but include scenarios that are relevant to all different kinds of people. If every fight feels like a barroom brawl, that's not going to resonate with a lot of people. So if you could have different, this is just generally different scenarios. And even if it's, just reach out and grab behind someone's head, that could be more inclusive than throwing a punch sometimes. So just keeping all those perspectives in mind, and consciously developing women's leadership as To-Shin Jo practitioners, and not just in the realm of women's self-defense.
Dr. Anna.
Yeah, I second all of that. And also, in addition to having women in leadership positions and staff positions, using, I think, women as ukes during seminars, and not just picking, the biggest, baddest guy that you have in the room, but also calling in women to serve as ukes. That can definitely help. But no, I think that ultimately representation really does help. So if I'm a new student and I walk into a school and I see other women on the mat, like that's gonna want to, I'm gonna wanna be more likely to join just because I see other women out there, and that's something that would make me feel more comfortable. I should mention there was a period when I lived back home in Puerto Rico during the 2 years between Michigan and North Carolina, where, not gonna mention the yard, but I went and did it because it was the only thing that was available. And literally I was the only female there, and it was like 30, maybe 40 other guys, and it was really intimidating. And had I not already had a martial arts background before that, I probably would have just gone out the door right back. So yeah, definitely being able to see other women on the mat, like at all levels of leadership, really helps for sure.
That's great. What do you think, Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I think they're all great answers. I know we're kind of coming down to the last wire here, and I would say that, the three of you definitely are great examples in your own right as far as what can be achieved, not only for someone who is working their way in the world, because you all have some great achievements. And before we leave, I'm going to toss one more thing to Dr. Amy, but I also want to say that I think it's important, particularly for those of you that are at this level, this DON level of training, that those things that you are mentioning as far as what you feel is important from the women's perspective, as far as recognition and being put in those roles, that while we as instructors, Hardy owns a dojo, I run a training group, while it is important for us to make sure that there is inclusion, I think now it is just as important, if not more so, that you're acknowledging your own self-worth, which is, we've talked a lot about that. Utilize that to help assist people that are in our position, Hardy and mine's position, to be mindful of those things as we move forward. Because I think a mistake that can be made is that, the male side of martial arts, or even within the To-Shin Do community, are not consciously excluding, but just we're not thinking of it the way that you think of it. So, I'm totally comfortable in saying, we could use the help. We could use the nudge and say, hey, what about this person? What about that person? Could I do more? I would like to do more. Because I think sometimes we feel it's black and white. Either we are acknowledging or being acknowledged, or we're just not. And the reason that we're not is just, it's cut and dry because they're not looking at us a certain way. And that, I would say, at least from my perspective, more times than not, it's not that way. It's just that it's not in the forefront of our mind. So help us, help us with it. Because I certainly don't see it as a battle. I just see it as an ongoing conversation. We need to communicate more. As with anything in life where it seems like there's one side or the other, we just simply need to communicate more. And I think you have found, otherwise you wouldn't have made it this far in this community of people, that we are extremely highly receptive to that type of feedback and those types of conversations that will help perpetuate and move us forward. And then it will be a natural occurrence that when women come into the dojo, or girls come into the dojo, that they will see that that never crosses their mind. That would be my goal, is that dichotomy never really shows itself in this environment. It just never crosses anyone's mind. So accepting, so open, so represented well, that this is just it doesn't even seem like it's a martial arts fighting place, that it's just a community of people that are all going towards a similar goal, and we've got a certain way that we're doing that. So I think it's as equally important that we have dialogue going in both directions, and constant understanding constant evolution to being open to, as we're moving into a new age, not just being open to male and female, but all of the idiosyncrasies and all of the dynamics that lie in between there. And I mentioned children before, and I'll kind of segue this to Dr. Amy. You've just made some leaps and bounds in the world of child safety and child protection. And you've written a book about it, and I hope you have it there with you that you can kind of hold up and show us. And maybe just a couple words, because I know we're running short on time. Maybe just a couple words on what your book represents, because I think it's a mirrored reflection of what the To-Shin community represents as far as how we look at each other. But you kind of dug a little bit deeper as far as children are concerned. So can you kind of elaborate that a little bit more and tell us about your book?
Sure, thank you. And real quick, I'll say Teresa Murphy and I actually wrote an article called Everybody on the Mat, which was about inclusion in To-Shin-Do. So I'm glad we are having that discussion, and you can look up that blog post that went through the official To-Shin-Do blog if you want to check that out. And Teresa's been a great mentor, so I want to give her a shout out. The book on child safety that I wrote with my other mentor, Irene von der Zahn, the head of Kid Power, is called Doing Right by Our Kids, Protecting Child Safety at All Levels. And it made it to an Amazon bestseller status in child abuse prevention, which we're really proud of.
Of course it did.
And we look at child protection as an adult responsibility. And we're looking at the building blocks on the cover are all these different levels, like starting with your family, your inner circle, your friends, your family, your neighbors. Then you go to school, sports teams, worship, faith communities, schools, universities. We kind of go all the way up to the top. And we get to the top, we talk about ending discrimination and racism, which was a really big topic to even try to do justice to, but we decided we had to at least try. So whether you're a teacher, a parent, a camp counselor, there are things you need to know. And these are things we're not taught as parents. I was I've been a professional educator with years of classroom experience. I was not taught this as a professional teacher. So we basically wrote like the missing manual to child safety. So what you need to know if you're running a dojo and have volunteers as coaches, what are some of those policies, all the child contact policies, whether you're a dojo, a camp, a school, whether you're looking at it as a principal, a leader, or as a parent. We just pulled it all together, built on a foundation of Kid Power principles, which have been taught for 30 years. So we're really proud because now it's out there. And I was hired by the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources to do a training for all of their statewide staff, from the aquariums to museums to libraries to the zoo, everyone who was doing a program for kids. I did the training for them on how to create a safe environment for children. So I've gotten interested in everything from that basic parent level to the policy level.
Very cool.
Fantastic.
Congratulations, and thanks for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Wow. Hardy, like I said, and what we've discussed before, we're really super excited about having this panel of these powerful, dynamic women sharing their perspectives. And I kind of think we hit the nail on the head as watching the feed. And there's so many people out there, mostly within our To-Shin community, but they're very appreciative of your perspective. So this, we will continue, doing these things. And don't be surprised if we ask one or two or three of you to come back and share some perspectives as we dig a little bit deeper into some topics that we feel are coming across our plate and are relevant to kind of dig into a little more. But I got to tell you, I'm certainly glad that the three of you were available to join us tonight. So, thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. According to the feed, we've just scratched the surface. So we definitely may have to do a part 2 of this. We've got questions, about women's self-defense scenarios. We've even got questions. And Dr. Anna, I'd love to have you back on, as a person of color in the dojo. What sort of scenarios may be different? Again, what would need to be set up in a dojo to make it more inclusive on that front as well. So
Very important topic.
Yeah, very important topic. And I don't want to do a disservice by shorting it right now. So all I can say is thank you so much. Domo arigatou gozaimasu. I really, really appreciate you guys coming on, and I have so appreciated the time that I've had personally being able to train with you three, beside you three, and watch your development throughout the years. So To-Shin-Do is in a very fortunate position to have women leadership like you. So please continue to train and continue to progress, because I want to see each of you get that next belt.
Yeah, you know what else I would say as well on top of that is, you know, we have, for those of you that are outside the To-Shin-Do community that are watching, we have several opportunities throughout the year where we can where we are able to get together, spend a weekend together, train, catch up, you know, catch up on lives, catch up on how we're doing with our training, with our, you know, with our physical movement, some things that we study as well as far as human behavior are concerned. And what I would say to the three of you and to the rest of the women that are training that come to these events and just in your dojos, like you are powerful people. So feel free to act like it, right? Feel free to act like it. Feel free to be who you know you are as great representatives of To-Shin-Do, because even though you may have one individual that is at the head of the class who's teaching a specific topic or going over some part of our theory, you in your own right have achieved, you know, a great deal by having a black belt around your waist. And, you know, I just say to you, you know, allow yourself to not only enjoy it, but to express the knowledge that you have coming from a woman's perspective at any given moment. Feel free to exercise that right that you have. And, you know, while leaders that are in our community can elevate others to a certain position, we can also all do our part to act like the leaders that we are. So I would extend that across the board, from men to women and everything in between. But since we have the three of you on, you know, we certainly don't have to wait to do that. So, you know, do it. We didn't even get a chance to talk about what it's like training during this pandemic that we're going through. Maybe we can lead off with another discussion when we have another, you know, female panel, Hardy. But I would love to know those different perspectives as well. But we've just simply run out of time. So I just wanted to give you that parting thought, because I think you guys are great. And I enjoy spending time with you in the limited time that I have when I'm there. But, you know, there's not a time that I don't get to train with each one of you where I don't recognize that, you know, you're great people, regardless of how we describe each other. You guys are great people. And we need to spread more of that greatness within not only in our To-Shin-Do community, but our communities abroad as well. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
Awesome.
What a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you all.